I'm a grandmother, so imagine how concerned I am when I receive a distress call at 10 o'clock at night from my 10-year-old grandbaby telling me that she wants me to adopt her because she can't deal with her evil stepmom anymore. Well, I decide to figure out what's going on, and I get to the bottom of it. You won't believe what the neighbor just told me. I have some advice for the younger generation. If you're marrying a man who already has kids or a woman who already has kids, you should know that the moment you accept that man or woman, you have to accept his or her kids too. I'm tired of young people thinking that they can love a man who already has children, but not love his children. You have to love and accept the whole package. My son married a lady who pretended to love his children, but with time she could not hide her hatred and real intentions anymore. Before I delve deeper into my story, I want you all to know that I'm not the kind of mother who meddles in her son's marriage. Even when my son was younger and would come to me or his late father for some relationship advice, I often told him just to try and sort out whatever issue he was having with his girlfriend by himself. I didn't want a situation he would always run to me for help whenever he messed up things or he had a fight with his woman. So when he was ready to get married, I knew he was man enough and could handle whatever his marriage threw at him. Jack's first marriage was a couple years ago. He got married to a pretty lady, Melissa, who I'd always tease about escaping from a fairy tale. Melissa was beautiful, tall, and had a head full of curly black hair. I hope you all don't mind me taking my time to describe her and all the memories that we shared together, because apart from being my adorable daughter-in-law, Melissa became a very good friend, and we always chit-chatted like teenage girls. She was calm and loving, and above all, she made Jack a very happy man. In the past, Jack's been introduced different ladies to me, but Melissa was the one who won his heart. He loved her so much, and I knew that she loved him too. They had a small, beautiful wedding, and after a year of marriage, they had their first daughter, Minny. 4 years after Minny was born, they had Jenna, my favorite little pumpkin. Unfortunately, when Jenna was 2, Melissa got hit by a drunk driver and we lost her. Believe me, this was one of the toughest seasons of our life. I was not in any way prepared for that kind of pain, and I didn't even know how to console my son and his daughters. It was hard for him because the news of Melissa's death came as a shock, and I can boldly say that the day Melissa died, she took a part of him with her. For the months that followed, I took care of both my son and my granddaughters. It was not easy of a thing to do, but I tried my best to be there for them physically, emotionally, and mentally. The hardest part for me was constantly trying to explain to my then 2-year-old granddaughter that she would never see her mom again, because her mother was now an angel in heaven and was watching over her. Thankfully, my son did not remain in his grief state for long. He realized that his daughters did not have to lose both parents, and he mourned Melissa for almost a year before he saw the damage his emotional absence was doing to his kids. On my end, I also tried my best to constantly fill up the gap for him. In fact, I had to move in with him for months, especially because I had to look after the girls. 2 years after Melissa passed away, it was all still obvious that Jack and the kids still missed her, and that was when I suggested that Jack got remarried. At least if not for himself, but for the girls. The girls needed a young, vibrant mother figure in their lives, and I could not do so much for them as a grandma. When I suggested to Jack that he remarries, it almost caused a strain in our relationship. He was so disappointed and thought that I was pushing him out to get another woman just 2 years after Melissa died. He even called me insensitive and said that I never loved Melissa like I claimed, which was not true. Anyways, I think I deserved it because I did not know Jack was still hurting from Melissa's demise. After I suggested it the first time and Jack flared up, I never mentioned anything about my remarrying again, because I've seen how much it hurt him, and I did not want to dig up old wounds. For the next 2 years, Jack and I continued to look after the girls and provide for their needs. I literally had 2 homes, Jack's house and my house, and the girls always picked the house that they wanted us to spend long holidays with. This allowed the girls and I to build a strong bond with one another, and to date, well, we still have that bond. I did not try to be their mother or try to replace her. I played my role as a good grandmom, and I raised my girls to be kind, loving, and caring. It was in the 4th year after Melissa's demise that Jack told me he's been seeing someone. That came as a shocker, especially after how our last conversation about remarrying ended. He'd been seeing a girl, Celine. He met her on a dating app, and he wanted to introduce the girls to her. There's no asking if I was happy because I was. In the past weeks, I've noticed a different glow on Jack, and he looked happier, but I did not think it had anything to do with the woman. The only thing was that Jack was worried if the girls would like Celine, and I advised him to arrange for both parties to meet the girl first. To cut the long story, Jack arranged for Celine and the girls to meet, and everything turned out beautiful. Celine was a younger lady, and because of her personality and humor, the girls could relate to her easily. I really liked Celine, and she seemed cool. She even had a great smile and was great with the girls, and since Jack and Celine have been dating each other for almost 7 months before he told me about her, she moved in with him after Jack introduced her to the girls. They ended up living together for almost 6 more months before Jack officially tied the knot with her. During and after their wedding, I was so happy and relieved. I was happy because the girl finally had a mother figure in their lives, and Jack had a friend and a companion he could spend time with. The tiny problem I had was that Celine and I did not really get along like I did with Melissa. Celine was different, and I knew better than to not expect her to be like Melissa. Unlike Melissa, who came to my house almost every weekend with Minny, so that I could help with the babysitting, Celine barely visited. The only time I got to see her and the kids was if I visited them. The first few weeks after Celine and Jack married, she acted like she was cool with me, visiting the kids every weekend, but after a few months she began to complain about me, invading her space and privacy, and she got Jack to talk to me so I could reduce the number of times I visited my granddaughters to once in a month. And that really hurt. I was already so used to being around the girls, but I had to make adjustments for them since they were still newly married. When I could not see my girls as often as I wanted anymore, Minny and I agreed that she and her younger sister would call me every weekend, so we could talk about our weeks and just about fun things. This seemed to work in the first few weekends, but all of a sudden the calls just stopped. Most times, I would just go ahead and call the house or Minnie's phone, and it would take me straight to voicemail. When I inquired from Jack, I told him that I could no longer reach my granddaughters. Jack told me that Celine had seized their phones, and she claimed that all those calls were distracting the girls from reading their books. If I said that I wasn't pained when I heard that, I would be lying. I was so angry, and I hated what Celine was doing. I tried to explain to Jack that Celine was trying to separate me from the girls, but he dismissed it and said I was overreacting. Then he said that Celine was now the girl's mother and that I should not try to interfere with her parenting method. Honestly, I never expected Jack to say that to me. I've never tried to show Celine how to parent the girls or anything, and all I wanted to was to constantly communicate with the girls and find out how they were dealing with having a new mom. I didn't really have an issue with Jenna because she was still very young when Melissa passed away. My main concern was Minny. I wanted to know how she was adjusting to having a new mom, but Celine crushed every platform of opportunity I could find. At that point, all I could do was stick to my once-in-a-month visit, and every time I did visit, Celine seemed awfully nice to the kids. After months of seeing how nicely she treated the kids in my presence, a part of me stopped worrying. Little did I know that the lovey-dovey nice mom crap I've been seeing whenever I visited Celine and the girls right there at their home was just a show. Sadly, I could not tell because the girl was always so put together and did not show a sign that they were being maltreated. During my visit last weekend, I noticed that Minny looked like she's been holding a something back, like something was bothering her. So I asked her a couple times if she was okay because she seemed a little bit dull, but she kept nodding that she was fine. That weekend, I didn't really enjoy my time with the girls because Celine kept interrupting our conversation. She didn't even let me play with the girls in their room, and I didn't want to push my boundaries. Already, she had been making me mad, and the only reason I did not confront her was because I did not want to strain in my relationship with Jack. Later that evening, I returned home and did not think much about Minnie's mood. I just waved it off and continued with my evening. I watched a couple of shows that night and I retired to bed early. I was still deeply asleep when my phone rang, and When I reached to pick up my phone, I was shocked to see Minny calling me by midnight. The first thought that crossed my mind was maybe something bad had happened. But it wasn't that. Minny called me crying, and she was begging that I could come and adopt her and her much younger sister. At first, I could not get much of what she was saying because she was crying, but after I got her to calm down and speak to me, she told me that Celine had been maltreating her and her younger sister. Celine threatened that if she told me, or anyone else, she would kick her and her younger sister out of the house. Immediately I heard that, I froze, because what Minny was telling me did not in any way match with what I've been seeing. Celine acted like the perfect mother around those girls, and if you did not have any kids, by merely seeing her and the girls together, you would have thought of getting kids. So you could replicate her whole facade. Yes, she was that dramatic. I mean, the crazy part is that she opened a YouTube channel for her and the girls, but I'll not be sharing that channel's name. The remainder of that night I could not sleep, because I could not stop thinking of what Minny had told me. Minny could even say much because from what she sounded, she must have been hiding to make that call, and she probably stole her phone from Celine to call me. There and then I began to connect the dots. I understood why Minny seemed so dull earlier that day, and I could bet $100 that she really had something bothering her but was unable to tell me. The following morning, as soon as the day broke, I drove straight to Jack's house. I thought of calling Jack to tell him everything Minny had told me, but I wanted to get all the information right. Thank goodness I knew two of Jack's neighbors who were always so friendly to me. I watched their kids once, and Jack maintained a good relationship with them. I knew that if there was anyone who had seen anything concerning Celine maltreating the kids, it had to be the neighbors across and adjacent to Jack's house. I tried to speak with the neighbor adjacent to Jack's house, but she did not see or hear anything. Thankfully, the neighbors across Jack's house did. He told me that he had seen the girls sit outside on the porch a couple of times, and they always looked really sad. He also said that he's been waiting to see Jack so he could tell him about his wife leaving his daughters outside in the cold. Thank goodness he didn't call CPS, because that's a good enough reason for any neighbor to call. That was all I needed to hear. After my little investigation wrapped up, I went straight to Jack's house and I found Minny crying while hugging her little sister. I was heartbroken to see this, and I took them straight to my car without asking any questions or saying a word to Celine at all. Jack was not around. In fact, he was barely around ever. The nature of his job required him to travel from town to town, so he often left the kids in their stepmother's care. No one knew that Celine was a snake, and she was very deceptive. She would pretend to be a good mom whenever Jack and I were around, but the moment no one was there to watch her, she would show her true colors. Immediately, I took the kids to the car. Celine charged and followed me. She said I had no right to come into her home and take the kids out of the house, and I told her to cut the pretense because I wasn't one of her YouTube fans who would be drooling in the comments over her fake life. She got so mad when she heard that, and she actually attacked me. As soon as she did, I don't know if it was a reflex or something, but my two pit bulls that were playing with the girls outside the car rushed to the scene and saved me, and things turned out pretty bad for us. Celine had her left leg almost torn apart, and a couple of bite marks and scratches on her body. I suffered some injuries too, but it was not as much as Celine's, thank goodness. The neighbor who hinted to him that Celine had been locking the kids outside as punishment was outside his house when the attack happened, and he helped calm the dogs. Now, the reason I'm sharing this here is because Celine's still receiving treatment, and Jack is mad at everything that transpired. He hasn't even allowed me to explain everything, and he's mad at the girls for trying to leave me without getting permission from their mom. I admit that I did the wrong thing by trying to take the kids away, but it all happened by a reflex. They were in terrible state, and all I could think about at the time was getting them out of there. I've tried to explain to Jack that the kids are not happy being with Celine, but he thinks that I put the idea in their head as some sort of revenge at Celine for separating me and the girls. On the other hand, Celine's playing the emotional card. She's told Jack that I don't love her and is slowly manipulating Jack to choose between her and me. I'm so confused right now, and I don't know what to do. I need your comments and your suggestions. I don't want to be the a-hole mother who ruins her son's marriage, and I do not also want to be the grandmother who can't do anything when her granddaughter called for help. I love them way too much, and it's hard to turn a blind eye. I look forward to your comments, guys. Thank you. Update number 1. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the warm comments and suggestions. Yes, you're all right. I'm just a mother who loves her son and grandmother, who loves her granddaughters, and you all have no idea how I feel to see that so many of you have done the same thing. It's such a relief to know that you're all not judging me for trying to take my granddaughters away. It felt like the right thing to do at the moment, and I didn't wait to think things through. Celine was just being overly dramatic by following me, and to think that it was the first time we had a verbal confrontation, but she made it clear, and she made it look like we were arch enemies, and have been fighting each other for a very long time. That aside, Celine is out of the hospital now, and she's recovering slowly. The whole dog attack thing was just unplanned, and although my pit bulls are not very friendly with strangers, they're quite familiar with Celine. She's even fed them a couple times, so I'm guessing this has nothing to do with Celine. They were only defending their mom from being hurt. I tried to speak with Jack yesterday, but he's still very upset. Now that Celine's back at home, she's been putting up her usual show. Jack thinks she's doing a great job as a stepmom. Can you guys believe that Jack uses the YouTube channel as a yardstick to show that Celine's taking good care of the girls? I'm not saying that all families who put their lives out there for us to watch are fake, but in Celine's case, she's just using the girl for the benefit of her own selfish interest. Someone here has suggested that since Jack has refused to speak to me, I should get the neighbor who witnessed everything to try to talk to him. You know what? I think it's a great idea, and that's exactly what I'll do. I know the girls are counting on me to help them, and I will not let them down, even if it means Celine seeing me as a monster-in-law. As of the moment, the girls are in good hands. Jack had to take a break from work to look after Celine and the girls until she can handle things on her own. Oops, I forgot to mention that my poor dogs have been banned from Jack's house, but that's something I can deal with. Once I go and meet Jack's neighbors and we talk to Jack, I will make another update, and since things have been a bit sensitive between Jack and I lately, I don't want to make things worse than it is. So I'll play by the book this time. Anyways, thank you guys for your comments and suggestions. You are all the best. Update number 2. Hey guys, thank you so much for all the kind support. This is really massive, and I'm mesmerized by how much of you people out there are looking out for me. So the plan to get Jack's neighbor to speak to Jack worked. I didn't tell you all that Celine had threatened to press charges for the attack. She claims her insurance did not cover all her hospital bills, and she wants me to pay for it, including the pain and suffering. She makes it sound like I release my dogs to personally attack her. For crying out loud, we were both attacked, and I got some serious injuries too, you know. In the heat of the moment, if it were not for her, that wouldn't have happened. She told Jack that I attacked her first, and for some weird reason, I called my dogs on her. We all know that kind of crap only happens in the movies, and as stupid as her lie sounded, Jack still fell for it. Anyways, I wanted to sue her for child abuse, but I can't do that anymore, so let's call it even and just call it square. To the main gist. When I told Jack's neighbors everything that's been going on after the incident, he got very upset. He's a couple years older than Jack, but they're still good buddies, and they have had a great relationship. Jack's neighbor invited Jack to his home, and after coming up with a dozen reasons why he was too busy to have a chit-chat, Jack finally agreed. I think Jack suspected that the invitation had something to do with me, and that's why he kept posting his neighbor. Anyways, finally, he got to speak with his neighbor, and his neighbor explained all the things Celine had been doing to the girls. He even told Jack that there's a time he wanted to call CPS because Celine locked the girls outside in the cold. But he wanted to speak with Jack first, of course, and find out if he was aware of everything that was happening since he was barely at home. Jack was shocked to hear all that. But despite what he heard, he still didn't believe it. He argued with his neighbor that Celine would never do such a thing and that his neighbor was mistaken. He came up with a couple of excuses why the kids could have been outside in the cold or any other occasion. Even the excuses didn't make sense to him, but he kept defending his darling dearest. After all the arguments, his neighbors said that he had one last thing to show him, and he brought all the footage showing the girls being locked outside. By merely watching that footage, he could not deny that his daughters were sad and they looked like they were being punished. In addition to that, his neighbor also showed him the footage of everything that happened that Sunday morning. Even I did not know that Jack's neighbors had a security camera outside his house and it directly faced Jack's home. Well, I expected that Jack would apologize to me and say, "I'm sorry, Mom, you were right." But he didn't. Instead, he left the house in anger and went straight to his home. All this happened this evening, and I still don't know what this next reaction's going to be. Right now, all I can do is sit and wait to see how things unfold. Guys, thank you. You're the best. Update number 3. Hey guys, thank you for the ones still commenting on my post. I'm so glad you're all concerned about me and my granddaughters. It's been a week since Jack got briefed by his neighbor, and I did not expect him to reach out to me so fast. My baby's been so shaken, and as of the time I'm making this update, the girls are with me. The next day, after Jack's neighbor spoke to Jack, he called to ask if he could come and, see me at home. I was so surprised to see him bring the girls and their clothes with him. He said that he could not believe that Celine had been maltreating his daughters right under his nose and he had no clue. Also, ever since Celine moved into the house with him, his relationship with the girls was no longer as strong as it used to be. He needed to pass through Celine to do anything with the girls all the time, and that same thing applied to the girls. He believed that doing that would help the girls build a relationship with Celine. Their father-daughter relationship was slowly fading away at this point, and this was also affecting his daughters. But he didn't see things like that. He claimed that the first time he had a heart-to-heart conversation with his daughter was the same evening, and he missed it. As soon as he left his neighbor's house, he went to the girls and offered to take them out to McDonald's. And after a lot of apologies and pressing to know if the girls loved their new mom, they finally opened up and told him the truth. I didn't even know that Celine had been starving the girls on some days, and she would lock them in their bathrooms as punishment, and if they did not do the chores she assigned them properly, well, speaking of Celine, Jack's kicked her out. She's out of here, that witch. But he's confused about what to do from here. I've tried my best to convince him that Celine's not the kind of woman he wants for his future and for his children, and someone here even suggested that I threaten him. On a normal day, I'm not the kind of mother that would threaten her son, but in this case I had to. I told Jack to choose between giving up custody of the girls or divorcing Celine. I knew that he loved the girls too much to give up custody. So, he made the right decision. He's divorcing Celine, and he's already starting processing of the divorce papers. I know Celine hates me, but I don't give a crap about her and what she thinks about me. My only concern right now is for my son and granddaughters to be happy and live a good life. Slowly, everything's taking back its former shape, and I'm glad. Even if Jack decides that he'll never remarry and wants to remain a single father for his girls, I will give him 100% my support. In a couple of months, their divorce will be finalized, and I'm glad I can now spend time with the girls as much as I want to, and not follow some dumb timetable. Thank you guys so much for your advice, suggestions, and comments. They were all very helpful, and I would not have done all this without the amazing support I got from here. So, thank you. So I do agree it's a good thing that OP and Jack were able to come back together. Jack was able to separate himself from the toxic marriage and just be there for his kids. However, at the same time, I do agree with some of the commenters. It took way too much for Jack to finally realize, oh, something might be wrong here. Guys, I don't know. If you were in this position and the neighbor's telling you something's wrong, your mom's telling you something's wrong, but you just won't believe it, does that make you a floor mat? Let me know in the comment section down below, guys. Today's story was intense, insane, and downright toxic, but at the end of the day, it worked out for the better. My name's Mr. AITA. I narrate stories like this every day, and if you guys do enjoy them, consider subscribing for daily videos. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.